那我们接下来这一段的话，就是他会做一个 live demo。好，那我们请 Dr. Emery, please.
Hi, thank you. Just want to give you a little history about X-Nav and how we got started, and just for myself, a little history of myself. So my previous company was Imaging Sciences, where we developed the iCat, which was one of the very early cone beam CTs, and probably today is still probably one of the best CTs on the market. When you have this data from the CAT scan or from the CT device, the question comes, how do you use that data? And that's what becomes important, and that's what drove the idea of X-Nav. Dr. Emery came to me after I left my prior company and said to me, he says, navigation is what we need. He goes, I guide every one of my patients, but I don't like static guides. The process is too difficult. We need to make this process easy. He says, let's create a company that can make navigation easy to use. And he's going to demonstrate this, and I'm going to point out a number of different things as he's demonstrating. There's a lot of engineering behind this. It looks like a very simple device. It's a computer with cameras and light. But every part of this device is very carefully engineered and very carefully thought out. So for example, we start with a computer down below. The computer inside this base, it's just right inside here. That computer is a very high power computer. Dual GPU cards, the fastest of the GPU cards. And that's in order for us to be able to do all of the calculations, in order for us to navigate those patterns. These different patterns have to be all navigated in 30 frames a second so that it feels very natural to you. The way it feels, you don't want it to be too slow or too fast. You need to feel very natural, just like you're drilling. You also need it to be highly accurate. And we're going to show you that as we start to demonstrate this. The number of points, all of these different little corners on those patterns are identified and tracked. And because we track so many points, we're capable of keeping a very, very high accuracy. And it's the failure of a lot of other navigations. Finally, when you see the workflow and the actual understanding of everything being in one target view, that's a very difficult task, again, that we challenged ourselves to make happen in the software. So I'm going to explain things as Dr. Emery gets up here and sets up. So we have a number of different parts. He showed you earlier the X clip. You guys,
So this is the part this is the X clip. This is the thermoplastic device that you heat up. It goes from this white color to clear color, and then you just push it on the patient and take it off. You don't mess with it. You don't try to mold it or do anything with it. You just put it down, pull it off, and drop it in cold water. All the parts, there's only one screwdriver for everything, so that's all you need. So I'm going to put this together. There's different arms for different geometries. This part here, which is where it's attached, is always to the buckle, and it's pretty easy to put on. You just put it on like that, and I'm going to start tightening, and then I'm going to line it up. I'm going to get my hands out of the, trying to get my hands out of the way. Yeah, let's do it this way. It's because it'll be easier. Make sure it's in the right orientation. I'm just going to tighten it up. Then I'm going to put this part on. These are all, you can sterilize them. They're not disposable. The only thing that's disposable is the X clip. You tighten it on there. It's got a special thread on it to keep it from coming loose. So this is all ready to put together. All right. What I'm going to do with this now is snap it on the patient. And when you do this on a patient, it should actually click into place. And these are models, so they have a big undercut. And on patients, it'll actually snap into place. Okay, now what we're going to do is put the drill together. This part just screws on, and there's a little piece here that you can put on to tighten it up. Okay? And all this is done in my office by my staff. Now when we calibrate it, we want this piece on here, this disc, and it just goes in here. And I'm going to show you the calibration steps. So that's on there well. So you have to calibrate this part to that part. This was added after a few tries so that when you tilt it, it'll drill up, it's tracked.
Well, one of the most important things in navigation is that when you're navigating, that you don't lose your tracking. And you're going to find that's something that's very, very different about our system than any other system that's on the marketplace today. We just don't lose tracking because we've thought through each of the parts on how a dentist uses it. And you're going to see I'll actually interfere with the patterns as Dr. Emery's doing surgery, and you'll see that it'll continue to track.
So which one of these is this model?
They're the same.
This one? Okay, so in the software, you just click on the patient screen. In this case, it's the sawbones. And this has already been planned. We're going to go through a real patient, and I'll show you how to plan. And we're going to, so we've gone through picking the arch. You can put a nerve in. You can superimpose here. Virtual crowns, and then the implant is right here. This is where we plan the implant. And they're all generic here. You've got platform, length, and apex. And then we're going to go to the tracking screen. Okay, now, we want to go to, it's already been calibrated.
That's all right, you can just recalibrate.
Okay, so we're going to go to the calibration of the drill. All the instructions are here. You can see it tells you to tighten things up. It tells you to stay between 60 and 80 centimeters. That's the sweet focal length. And what I'm going to do is just rotate this in front of the cameras. If you look down here in the bottom,
they can't see that.
Okay.
Can you give me, we need to.
Oh, they can see it over there.
Is that live? Oh, is that live? Okay. So I can point things out.
So if you look down here, you can see these are the tracking windows. There's one for each camera, okay? And I'm going to blow this up so you can see the window. I like to show this. You can see what's going on inside that image right there. That's what's being tracked.
So when I say there are hundreds of points that are being tracked at a very fast rate, that's why we have this very high computer. That gives us that accuracy. The more points that you have, the more you reduce the error of any one point creating an issue.
If you look right here, you see the 60 to 80, and there's one. These are the two different cameras, and you want to keep it somewhere in this area. So we're going to go ahead, and I'm going to press this button, and what I'm going to be doing is calibrating, and I'm spinning this, and this is how fast it's happening. So it's done. So now what we're going to do is calibrate the handpiece to the disc, and this gives the software something, and I can just do this by hand. You can attach to the handpiece. This is my beautiful assistant here. Yep. And it tells you right here 10 to 25 RPM. Put my foot pedal down, and I am just going to hold this in front of the cameras. Now in my office, I don't do any of this. My staff does this. Okay. And you got to keep all the objects that are blinking inside these views. So now this is calibrated. Now we don't need this disc anymore. I'm going to need a drill. Yep. Now I'm going to take this X-clip off the model. I actually don't have to, but typically, I'll take it off just to show you. So now I'm going to calibrate those three ball bearings, those fiducials. You see them in the pictures. I'm going to blow it up so you can see there's a little box around them. See how they're blinking? So the software is picking those three objects up, and it's going to relate them to this. Okay? So we're going to go ahead and now calibrate that. And a lot of times, if you're doing a bilateral case, you'll take this apart and put it together and calibrate it for one side and then flip it over to the other side so you can keep it out of your way while you're operating. So you're seeing all the steps typically that my staff does, okay? My staff does this. So he's telling me he's better at this than I am. See, I never do this.
I was going to comment on that. You know, you can definitely tell that his staff does it because...
Remember I tell you I don't want to do anything.
I can normally do this calibration in 20 seconds.
So now I'm going to snap this on, and I got it on. And now what I'm going to do, typically you don't put this on when you do this, but we're going to do a calibration check. Where's the plate? And I'm going to do is measure the drill length, okay? I just touched this perpendicular to it. It just measured it. Over here you can see it's 33.1 millimeters. And what you do is you touch each ball bearing in random places 3 times, and you should see it turned green. It's turning green. That one's good. That one, as long as it turns green, you're within 200 microns of accuracy. And this is all done before I walk into the room, typically before the patient's ready. So we're done. So that's the calibration. And we've checked the calibration. So now we're ready to go. We're going to go ahead and drill. And I'm just going to show you some things in the software real quickly. This is your target, and we're going to go into that in a minute. And this gives you an orthogonal view, a cross-sectional view, and an axial view. So you can look in the 2-dimensional views. Now you can set the orientation any way you want in the preferences here. And we're not going to go through that, but hopefully it'll go the way I like it. What I typically do is have the staff, you know, you can turn on and off arches. You can turn off the X-clip, keep it out of the way. And I try to set things up the way I look at them, and it's oriented for me, okay? And you can make this bigger or smaller so that it looks the same way as when I'm operating. So now we're ready to go. We're going to go ahead and place the implant 45. I'm going to measure the implant drill length. And the first thing I do is a system check. Now what I'm doing is touching this tooth right here, okay? You see I'm touching the tooth here, and I'm looking at in the software, and I'm going to just move this X-clip a little bit. I'm just pushing it down, and you see I'm touching that tooth, and I'm looking in my cross-sectional views right here, and you can see it's inside that circle, it's within a millimeter, okay? Now you can see it down here. I'm going to move that around so you can see. So I'm touching here, I'm looking here. I do this over and over when I'm operating, just to make sure the system's accurate. Now I'm going to intentionally displace this clip. Now I pushed it up. Now it's not touching. Now I look, I'd say, oh, that's not right, and I'm just going to touch it until I get it to where I want, and it's perfect now. So I know the system's accurate. I'm not worried. You never have to worry that it's not working because you can check it in seconds. So now I'm going to go ahead and drill.
System checking is something that you would do continuously during surgery. You're always going to want to know that the system is navigating to the right location.
So I'm moving like this just so you can see it on the camera. But the first thing I do is see this object right here, that's the tip of the drill, is a blue spot, okay? Now I'm going to put it at the center of the target. That's the middle of that's my target there. That's where my implant's supposed to be. So that's the tip of the drill, the blue spot. Now you get a bird's eye view with this, and I'm going to rotate the drill up until I center the drill over the spot. Now my goal is to keep that white circle centered over the blue spot and the blue spot on the target. I've got to move this. I got it. I'm good. Now I'm going to show you something before I go in. I've got this jammed into this sawbones. I'm going to tilt it up. And now you're going to watch the drill bend. And this is an amazing thing. I'm touching that spot. It's jammed into the bone, and now I'm going to move it. You're seeing the chuck bend. This is something you've never seen in your life. That's how accurate this thing is, and it's happening to you all the time. This is a very flexible burr, okay? So I'm going to keep it over there. I got a double finger rest, and I'm going to drill. And the yellow, okay, is the yellow is the depth. Now, when I get to 45, whatever you set it at, the length of your implant is going to be at 45 on the clock every time. So you never have to pay any attention to anything except for the color. As soon as you see green, you slow down a little bit, and now I've gone past. Now you see this double line? That tells you the maximum depth you've gone to. Okay, so now I'm going to pull it out, and I'm going to get my next drill.
So a couple of things while he was doing that. If you noticed, his shirt's disrupting our his little X corners on his shirt.
I have to take my clothes off. I'm being tracked. So I'm measuring the length, and now I'm going to go. I do a system check real quick. It's perfect, and I'm going to get out of the way so you can see. So go ahead, Ed.
Go ahead. So
go ahead.
As he's drilling, I can interrupt these things. So if your staff gets in the way, it doesn't affect. You can see we don't lose any tracking. You can't do that with any other system in the world, including the many hundreds of thousands of dollar medical units.
Now I like to use a Lindemann burr because it's side cutting. Because another thing you've never noticed in your life is that the rotation of the burrs puts torque on it and tends to run them. And they'll try to run around. And so when you're doing your initial pilots with a Lindemann burr, which cuts on the side, you can push it around. Because technically a Lindemann burr is actually a saw. So I'm going to go ahead and measure the next one. And again, I always do a system check really quick. I'm touching the tooth right here, and I can see it there. So you never have to guess whether your system is accurate or not. I put the blue spot on the center of the target, and now I'm going to start drilling. And you may think, well, his hands aren't very steady, but I'm working in microns. Each one of those little cross sections, or each one of those tick marks, is a millimeter. Now, these are tapered burrs, and if you look, I switched over, and it's a little different. Let's see if is it. No, my system check's good. I didn't have to go remeasure because the drills are supposed to be the same length. And if the manufacturer made a mistake with the drills and I do a system check, I can check on it. Okay, or if it's not seated in the chuck all the way, you'll know it because you do a system check. So the system check's a big deal. So this is the final drill. So I'm going to get it in the right spot. Okay, so I'm all done with drilling. So we're going to put the carrier on. Yeah, go ahead and put the implant in. This is the way I do it in my office. I just grab the implant and put it on. Of course not. Only joking. So I'm going to put the implant on. And he's going to change the torque. Change the speed. Is it good? Okay, so I got my implant on. I'm going to measure. This is a ceramic plate. You don't need to worry about touching implants. I go ahead and do a system check real quick. It's right on beam. I'm going to make sure I measure that right because that just fell out. So it fell out, so I'm not sure I had it seated all the way. So I'm going to remeasure. He just forced a measurement. So I measured it. I do a system check. It's right on beam. It keeps wanting to fall out.
大家可以看那个中间的荧幕，我觉得是最棒的。为什么？因为我请那个摄影师他 focus 在手上面，然后你看他手在动的时候，其实右边这个 screen 是跟着走的。
Now, if you look at the tip of the drill, you're going to see it wobbling. Those are the threads affecting the position. So that's my final torque. I don't want to destroy my drills. Your drills aren't supposed to go over 45 meters, but I've delivered it more than halfway. It's about 3/4 of the way. Once the torque hits 45, you have to go to hand drills because the drills themselves are only made to go to 45. Otherwise, the latch heads distort.
Static implant length is 10, but
Yes.
real implant is 13.
Oh, why'd you give me a 13? These guys are acting like my staff.
Sorry about that. Forgot to adjust the length.
Oh, you forgot to just like, oh, you're fired. So we have to take this implant out, and we have to back it out. So this is real world, isn't it? Okay. So give me the carrier, and we're going to take it out. I'll let you go. Assistant. There we go. And we may have to use that other thing to get it out. This really is just like the real world. We all know that. So I'm going to take it out. And then I'm going to get a 13 millimeter drill because my implant's 13. Give me a 13 millimeter drill. Yeah, just give me a final.
Final drill.
Yep. Again, this is real world. So I'm going to remeasure it. First thing we're going to do is I got to go back to the plan because it was planned for a 10. See right here. So I'm just going to go. This is exactly. Actually, this is it is real world. It's good to see this. So I'm just changing. I'm just 13. Yep. So I've got 13 millimeters. So it changed, and then I'm going to go over here. And I measure my length. So you just saw the change. So if you made a mistake, I'm going to do a quick system check. Looks good. I'm going to go ahead and drill. You see I use a double finger rest. Now this is going to be hard because this is going to want to wander around because it's a tapered implant, and I'm going to try to change the length. It's going to want to be pushed to the buckle and the distal because I'm drilling with it. All right. So now we're going to use the right implant. Now they'll probably give me a 10 millimeter implant. What do you guess? So we're going to change the speed. So I'm going to measure the length. I'm ready to go. I'm going to do a quick system check. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead, place my implant. And again, I'm going to try to get this real steady. And then you're going to see, if you look at the blue dot, it's going to start wiggling in circles. And what you're seeing is the threads. Look at the threads. You've, again, never seen this in your life. And again, when I start the drill, you see the torque, how it wants to move the implant. And this all happens with static guides, too. So I've gotten up to 45 Newton centimeters. It's almost seated. So if anybody has questions, please direct them so we can answer them. So I'm going to seat this. And the final, I assume this is supposed to go flush. What you don't know is that I can't see anything without my loops. I operate with a microscope and loops. So I've got it, timing's all set. It's seated. And I'm going to put my parts on. You giving me a carrier for the abutment? I think we're good. The implant's in place. Your abutment? It doesn't matter. We don't need the abutment. So you saw how long it took me, and we even changed our plan. So that's really good you saw that. So now I want to do is I'm going to show you a couple quick things. You can turn on and off the X clips, right? You can turn on and off the implants if they've got multiple implants. you can turn on and off the nerve if you want. If you're doing a bilateral case, you can change it from maxilla to mandible. So now what we're going to do is we're finished putting in an implant here. Anything you want to point out, Ed? I'm going to treatment plan one of my cases that they have here. Real quickly, so we go to the planning screen. This is one of my patients.
The idea here is just to look at quickly how quickly you can go through the workflow.
So everything goes from left to right. Okay, you can see the 3D view here. So what I'm going to do first thing is we're going to map the arch. Now I'm actually treatment planning. You know, say this patient just came in with a problem tooth, and I'm going to do an immediate extraction. I don't know your tooth numbering system. What's this tooth number? So I'm going to do the nerve next. And I click over here on the nerve. And I can click down here if I want. Doesn't matter where I go. And I always go, at the end, I'll just go to the foramen itself. So I map the nerve, done with that. Now I have an STL file. So we go up here and we click on that, and then they're going to navigate to it since they know their network. Okay, now I'll take over. So again, my staff does this before I walk in the room. It says mandible, so I'm going to pick mandible. Okay, mandible opposing mandible. So this is the maxilla. Okay, so this is the mandible. I'm going to click the mandible and go open, and now it's asking me for the maxilla. This is the opposing. So it brought in the mandible. So now what do? I'm going to go and I'm going to look for 3 points. What I like to do is go across the arch. I can blow this up and look for a cusp tip. This one's really nice and pretty obvious there. So I'm going to click here. And then I'm going to click here. And then make this a little smaller, so I can see. And again, if somebody just came in and you're ready to, it's immediate extraction and an implant, you can guide your case. Make sure I put it in the right place. I'll say I didn't like that, even though I do. You just click down here and undo it. And I'm going to do it again. Just wanted to show you can undo it and redo it, in case you make a mistake. And you only need 3 points to get it to superimpose, and then the software takes over. So it superimposed it. I'm going to look and make sure. So this is the STL superimposition here. See the outline? Remember I said that's a surface. STL, someone asked me a question. STL is just a file format for CAD. And then over here, it's just like a TIFF or a JPEG. It's all outlined. It looks perfect. And then over here, so I go all the way around the arch, and it looks beautiful. So that's well superimposed. So I'm going to put an immediate implant here. So I'm going to I'm not going to plan a tooth. I'm going to show you a tooth. Say I wanted to do a virtual tooth. I'm going to go back here, close this. I'm going to put in a virtual tooth because I want to show you everything. Which tooth number is this? This one. Put it in. Now, if I was doing if I was adding a tooth that wasn't already there, I the contralateral tooth and I do what I'm doing right now. Okay? The sizes here come out of Wheeler's dental anatomy book. I'm just increasing this just a tad to make it the same size as the thing, as the sawbones. Bring it down a little bit. So I put in a virtual tooth. You can't see it because it's inside that. If I move it out, you'll see it come out. See it come out?
You can shut the STL off for a moment.
Yep. I'm going to just. And now I'm going to show you something cool. If you don't want something in the way, you just circle it and click it and it's out of the way. Now I'm going to turn off the STL so you can see the virtual tooth. There's the virtual tooth. So now I'm going to add an implant underneath this. So I just click here and it automatically puts an implant in underneath for you. I'm going to go into the implant planning screen. And now this x-ray was taken properly because it's in my office. See the cotton roll? That allows us to see the contrast in the soft tissue. So I'm going to plan this. And these halos here, you can set them at you can have as many halos as you want. They go around the implant symmetrically. The first one I've set at 1.5 and the second one at 3 millimeters. You can see in the cross section here, you see this flat here. I'm going to blow it up. See the flat? That flat is for timing, okay? For figuring for pre-prosthetics, okay? And you can grab the flat and rotate it and move it with this arrow here, okay? So this is for timing, all right? I like my implant. I'm going to put this level with the bone. You can look right here. You see the bone here, all right? I'm going to turn on the STL file, and then you'll see even more. There's the soft tissue. See the soft tissue? This is why I love intraoral scans. I'm 1.5, 3 millimeters below the soft tissue. I'm a little to the palate. I'm going to look at this again. I'm going to say, oh, there's no nerve here, so why don't I put in a longer implant? And I'm going to put in a 13. Okay? And let's say, I think 4 millimeters is really good here. If I wanted to change it to 5, I just hit it here and here. So my case, so we're ready to go. So that's how long it takes to plan. Over here, I'm going to go back again and just show you something. There is an align tool. Okay. I'm going to add another implant real quickly here. Say I wanted to put an implant back there. I'm going to put it right around here, bring it up to the bone. And then I'm going to put align to 35. It asks you if you align. It's lined them up there parallel now. Now I can look at the cross section here. I'm 3 millimeters away. That's as close as I want to be to another implant, right? So this implant now is perfectly perpendicular to that implant. I can then go look at a superimposition and look at it, make sure I'm happy with the occlusion and the way that it meets. Okay, I look all around. Say I don't like all this stuff in the way. Say I don't really need all this spine and everything. It's in my way, I can't look. Just go like this. Now I can look, make sure I'm happy. Oh, that looks good, I'm happy. So I'm ready to go. So I've planned. Now we would just go through, like I just showed you before. Calibrate the handpiece, calibrate the X-clip, and you're ready to plan. I'm ready to place an immediate extraction and a second implant. It just takes seconds. Are there questions? Okay, great. All right. So we got time before lunch? Okay, because we have... You guys, you're ready? You want to hear some more? Okay.